This is Lockhart. 27 years ago, a fourth generation was born on the farm, but this kid was different. For most people out here, farming is life, but not for a young Jackson Strong.
I guess he always rode bikes on the farm anyway, because everybody did. But we didn't know he wanted to jump stuff. That was the worst part.
For everyone here, motorcycles are a part of life, a workhorse on the farm. But a young Jacko had a different idea, an idea that would change his destiny forever.
I remember I was probably 10 or 12. I started a chook business. So I started with, got a bunch of chooks, sold the eggs, and I made enough cash to buy myself a CR80 when I was 10 or 11 years old. And from there I was just focused, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
I think it was $2,000 or something like that.
Yeah, but he'd saved up all the money himself.
For life on the farm, everything is earned and not given. That's just how it is out here. An attitude that would forge Jacko's future.
I'm a fourth generation farmer here, so it was hard for any of the family to see me doing anything else other than farming.
He's always built all his own stuff. He always built all his own ramps, and some of those first ramps, I don't know how they held together. We didn't even know what freestyle motocross was.
Took a few years to convince everyone else, but I got them to come around.
He always had a bit of a plan. He'd always write things down, much higher than you would expect him to achieve, and he'd just try and do it.
And we learnt that, he'd come and tell us that he was going to do this, and we go, no, you can't do that. And he'd make it happen. He'd make it work. Yeah.
I remember it was Crusty Demons of Dirt 2. Constantly had that VCR at home, and I just watch it over and over and over, and that's what sparked it. I think that's what sparked it for so many other people. Those movies back then were sick. I sent in a video to the promoters of the Crusty Demons, showed them what I could do on a bike, and I think at that point in time they were looking for a young kid to come into the show and be the Crusty Grom and the next kid.
Got thrown into the mix pretty young. He took advantage of the opportunity he had and really stepped up. He earned my respect early. I was like, dude, this kid's pretty gnarly, and always rose to the occasion, and he just never was scared. Like one of those dudes that was willing to take huge risks. I saw a lot of how I was coming up. Like I wanted to succeed. I was willing to try anything. I was willing to take big risks. He's just a younger version of what I felt we were.
By the age of just 15, his heroes and idols saw the potential in the young athlete and took him in as one of their own.
When he decided that he needed a foam pit, we went, yeah, okay, you can have one, you've got to build it. So he used to go down to the pine paddock we had, and he'd cut down trees. And
he showed me where the chainsaw was, and the chainsaw point only stood as tall as me back then. And I remember chopping these massive trees down. I dug a metre hole for each post, stuck them in, stuck the clay back around it. I didn't have any money, so I was just doing everything that I was using for free. I was welding the last piece of mesh on one of the walls, being really cautious of the foam because I knew there was a fire hazard there, obviously, and there wasn't any foam close to it. So I was watching the foam in front of me, when I was welding, to make sure that it was okay and it was good. And then I turned around and there was a big fire of sticks behind me, and that fire had already caught onto the side of the foam.
And it just went whoosh, just caught on a fire, and
I couldn't put it out, I was trying to scrape the foam out, but it was just hot and just all stick to your fingers. You just couldn't, it was terrible. And I was planning to jump into the foam pit that afternoon after 6 months of just intense work every day. 30 seconds later, the whole pit was gone. It was torched. There was nothing left. So back then, it felt like my world had just ended.
And I think that was the first time I'd ever seen Jackson close to tears.
The old man and my grandfather and I all worked together and built a new one, and this time we did it right. We built it all out of steel and put a big rolling roof on it. And so I had a great foam pit, and then I started to spend a lot of time in it in the afternoons.
At only 18 years old, Jackson had achieved all of his early goals. Now it was time to choose his most ambitious one yet, the front flip.
I didn't want to be the young kid anymore. I wanted to be the guy that was out there that was changing the sport and being a top player in the game. I just said to everyone, I'm going to try a front flip, lean forwards and tuck as hard as I can. Came in, and leant forwards, and I think I only got upside down, but I felt that thing, I felt the rotation of that going. And from that point, I knew that I could make a front flip spin. If you ask me what I wanted to do when I was older, when I was 6 years old, it was win X Games medals. So I knew the front flip was the only way that I could do it. And X Games said, we're not going to work with a front flip. We can't do it. You know, it's given us too much bad press. We don't want to have crashes in best trick. This is already dangerous enough. And the front flip's not going to work with a roll in, then hit the ramp and do a front flip. That was everyone else's excuse who crashed it. I was like, well, I'll make a roll in. Hitting that roll in like second pin on the way down, tiny bit of flat and then fronting. And I was doing that in the foam pit, then I moved it over, did one to dirt and showed them that it was possible and that I was ready to do it. And then they finally, after everyone coming in all angles, let me in.
Now, here's a guy who has actually landed a front flip, but I have to say, this is about as hard as it gets in freestyle.
I was there that night where he was in LA and he went for the front flip, and it really didn't have much room at all to do it because you need more speed to kind of bounce off the ramp and complete the rotation. But he was going for it. Like, he was the type of dude that says when he said he was going to do it, there was not even a % chance that he wasn't going to do it. So, like, barely hits it and slaps it down and saves it and rides out of it, and it was like, that was one of the biggest moments in freestyle.
First time ever at the X Games, and it's 19-year-old Jackson Strong from Australia.
First time ever in any competition anywhere that the front flip has been set down.
That was my first year. I think I was 18 or 19 years old at X Games and won a gold medal at my first one. So that was like a point in my career that I will never forget, and it feels like it's still the sweetest gold to this day. To get a gold medal at X Games when I was 19 years old, for me, it was insane. It was a whole lifetime of work. It's everything I'd ever worked for. It's the reason that I had chooks when I was 6 years old to sell the eggs to buy the dirt bike when I was 10. It's the reason I spent every single day building a foam pit, and felt like all at once the last 15 years had been paid off tenfold.
Jackson went on to win consecutive best trick gold medals. He was on top of the world, but more life lessons were waiting just around the corner.
I've seen him do so many things that weren't with the cameras around, wasn't for money, it was just gnarly things like in my yard, or just stuff that was really stupid that I'm like, dude, that's so dumb.
There was this one particular time, it was New Year's Eve, and it was the stroke of midnight, and we were joking about how Sydney and everywhere else gets these really big fireworks shows, but we don't get anything out where we are, so we're like, all right, let's go make our own. And I found 1 pound of black gunpowder and I stuffed it in this big steel tube, and something set the settling gas off. And I remember sitting there and just seeing this big steel tube just swell up. It didn't even go bang for a start. It made like this click sound when and then the steel got really big, and I knew what was gonna happen. I was like, all right, this is it. I'm gonna die.
Jackson!
Then I get a phone call that Jackson had an accident and he got in an explosion and blew up, and I was like, dude, what?
It was your worst nightmare. You couldn't have been any worse, really.
I just remember getting blown up in the air and feeling funny all over.
Seriously?
I was on top of a freestyle landing at the start of it all, and I ended up on the ground at the bottom of the freestyle landing near it.
Okay, gotta go. Wait. Seriously, Jess.
I was like, oh, I didn't know how badly I was screwed up or if I was even alive still. And I remember looking down and my leg was just hanging off and there was blood everywhere and my face felt all funny. It was all torn apart, and from the rocks, the dirt, the steel, the metal, the shrapnel just throughout the whole blast, I was just head to toe. I was just covered in blood.
Dude, I didn't want to lose another friend that was that close, and it sounded like he blew his leg off, and I was like, dude, what?
You see the look in someone's eyes when you know that things are looking pretty grim.
It wasn't very nice. I couldn't go down there.
Everyone lifted me into the car and we raced into town. My friends raced me into town. I remember pulling up at the hospital at emergency, and the nurses came out, and I remember they saw me and just were like, one look and went back inside, and 80 or 90% of my thigh was just blown out.
When I got there, it was obviously much, much worse than we could have imagined.
Like, to me, and I thought, man, dude, Blue's like, he's never gonna be able to ride again, stuff like that.
It was like the doctors told us that he wouldn't walk again. They didn't even know whether they could save his leg to begin with.
That was the worst, most scariest 2 weeks of my life. Am I going to be able to do what I love and what I need to do to be satisfied in this life?
I mean, you got really lucky that didn't kill him.
4 to 5 months after I left hospital, I ran a 42-kilometre marathon. I feel like that was a pretty big effort to bounce back from doctors telling me I'd probably never walk again, and if I can, I'm not going to be able to ride a motorcycle at the same level that I once did.
Against all odds, Jacko was able to ride again, and he was only just getting started.
And long story short, he has this rare personality that is motivating. He's not in the game for the money. He does it because he likes the challenge. I truly believe if he could just ride a dirt bike and go build jumps and create new tricks and make new things with his hands, he'd be content.
Breaker here tonight. No one has ever taken 4 Moto X best.
Really wanting to succeed that's driven him there. And he's been really focused and committed to it, and disciplined, really disciplined.
Plans for me now, I really want to focus on freestyle as well as best trick. I want to get those 4 golds in freestyle too. That'd be nice.